Welcome to the latest episode of the National Leaderology Association podcast. This week, we're going to continue speaking on the leadership blueprint by Bill Walsh. So the title of our podcast is Elevating Standards, the Leadership Blueprint. And he has six guidelines for establishing standards of performance. I am your host, leaderologist, thought leader, and author, Dr. Amin Sanaia. As usual, join my tag team partner, Tanner Thorp.
How's it going, everyone? This is Tanner Thorp, human being, culture warrior, leader, thought provider, and just, again, super happy to be here with you guys.
Awesome. So we are continuing the deep dive into the art and science of leadership through the lens of one of the most influential figures in the realm of team management and performance excellence. That's Mr. Bill Walsh. Last time we spoke on the foundation of high performance and also the art of expectation. Today, we're gonna go into something that's very near and dear to my brother here, Tanner Thorp. We're gonna jump ahead and discuss guiding principles. Yes, it's gonna be really fun. So we're gonna tackle it from 2 points of views. Before we get to the organizational point of view and how guiding principles impact organizations, let's touch upon the personal side. So I think the way we're going that we want to do it is I know you have your guiding principles that are very near and dear to you. I have a couple, and I've learned through you that those are guiding principles for me as well. So we'll what I'm thinking is that we go back and forth. You start with one, and then I'll hit one, and we just speak a little bit on each, if you don't mind.
Oh, that works perfect for me. So, as you know, my number one guiding principle in my life is that you cannot control the first thought that comes into your head, but you can control the second.
Mhm.
And you know, as a person in society, whether it's society today or society 2,000 years ago, we're hardwired to judge.
Without a doubt.
It's innate. It's the very first thing that we do, whether we recognize it or not. You can't control that first thought that comes into your head, but you can control the second. You just have to be intentional about it, right? You have to catch yourself when you're having that negative thought, and it can be thoughts about anything, right?
Yes.
I mean, you can go down many rabbit holes. It doesn't have to be about someone else. Where it became a guiding principle for myself was stopping the negative self-talk with myself.
Yes.
Where was I going with the thoughts that I was having about myself? And we all, we all want to do better, right? If we're truly honest with ourselves, we know the things that we like about ourselves, and we know the things that we want to change about ourselves, right? And it's usually the things that we want to change about ourselves that we're the most critical about. And so for me personally, it was the negative self-talk where it really resonated. You know what? I can't control that first thought that comes into my head, but I can flip the script on that second thought or that third thought or that 400th thought. As long as I can catch it and recognize that I'm not being positive in my thoughts, I'm not being intentional, I'm not showing up authentically as who I want to be as myself, then I can really start to dig down and change my thought pattern. In positive psychology, we refer to it as reframing, right? You look at a situation one way, but then you reframe it to a more positive way. So that's my number one guiding principle in my life. You can't control the first thought that comes into your head, but you can control the second.
And that's something that we've spoken a lot about, and and teaching and giving workshops. I know we've discussed how it is so important to catch yourself at some point. Like you,
Yeah.
sometimes it's not as easy because you go down, like go down and go down. You're like, whoa, 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 whoa. At some point you catch it, and sometimes it's you catch it right away. But yes, that is so important as a person, as a human being, in order to keep yourself from being that, or for people to think that you are that negative Nelly type of person. Because you hear it a lot when when people see certain people coming, they're like, "Whoa, I don't
Yeah.
need that energy."
Yeah. Well, and it's our society now is hardwired to judge more than any other time in history because mostly in my personal opinion because of social media,
Yes.
right? I mean, you're constantly comparing yourself or your situations or your environments or your society to what it has or does not have to meet what you think it should be, right? So I mean, politics have always been politics and there's always been multiple sides of politics, but now with social media it's my hair doesn't look as good as that other person, or I'm not as skinny as that other person, or I don't have it's a mindset of envy. I don't have the all of the success that this person does, or I don't get to travel to all the locations that they get to travel to. One of my favorite facts that I love to talk about when we talk about these types of things is, I don't watch the news because the news
Me
is
neither.
it's all negative. I mean, it's just,
Mhm.
like the world's falling apart. When I was living in Florida, I had this thought that came to my head. I said, why isn't there a good news network? Like, why isn't there a network that just does good news? And so I looked it up. There's been a good news network for like 30 years. Why isn't it like on mainstream media? Because people want that judgment, right? They it's easier to feed off of negativity than it is to feed off of positivity. And that's where it's so important to be able to control that for that second thought, or that third thought, or once you get down that path, when do you catch it and what are you going to do about it? And it's hard. You have to be intentional about it. It takes work, you know.
Mhm. Yes, along those same lines. So, for me, one of the things that I throughout my life, I've always been a very given person. So, uh, people for me are important. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, number one is loving people, loving self. Um, but for the majority of my life, I only knew of loving people.
Mm.
So it was always me giving, always me sharing the love, always me going above and beyond for others. And I forgot that if I just give, but my cup, runs bare, what am I truly giving when I have nothing else at some point? So I learned through, I would say, School of Hard Knocks,
Sure.
through life. And when losing my brother, I think, was the pinnacle where for me that was a wake-up call where I have to take care of myself. If I don't take care of myself, I have to love myself first, take care of myself,
Yes.
and then, because I can do that, and I then I can give to others. But you cannot give from a cup that's bare, that you have nothing. So for me, understanding that was critical to be able to change a lot of things in my life, and it's very similar to what you were saying earlier about the negative self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
So while I was a very giving person, very loving person, I was always beating myself up because I wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Uh, and that is so hard for you to live in that mindset. I went down a lot of rabbit holes, going through depression because of it, not knowing that I was in a deep depression. But as I worked through that, um, with coach, with psychologist, I mean, I came to a realization, hold on a second, like, whoa, I gotta reframe my my train of thought and become my own personal cheerleader. I have to be the number one cheerleader for me because you already have enough haters, you have enough people that are gonna talk bad about you. You don't need to be on that bandwagon too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's such a good guiding principle. And, you said so many good things in there. A couple of them that I really want to touch on is one, there's no lack of takers in
No.
this world,
No.
right? So takers love a giver,
Oh yes.
and they'll take and take and take and take and take,
Hmm.
right? And people like you, I tend to be a giver also. People like us, we get joy out of seeing others have joy in the fact that we can help them.
Oh,
Like selfless giving is one of the it, so in the Bible it says that pride is a sin. And I don't think that pride is necessarily a sin because there's such a thing as healthy pride, right? Like
yes.
being proud of
Yes.
being proud of your kid hitting a home run in a baseball game.
Yes.
There's nothing bad about that, right?
Hmm.
But so there's also being proud of being a selfless giver, right? That feeling that you get, I mean, Mother Teresa, right? She got sainted after she passed away, and no one can underscore the work that she did with the homeless in Calcutta. I guarantee you that as selfless as Mother Teresa was, she still got an immense amount of joy from knowing that she was helping those who couldn't help themselves, right?
Oh,
That's healthy.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
so you get a rush from being a selfless giver. You get that endorphin kick, you get that dopamine kick knowing that you're helping somebody. But there's no lack of takers, and takers will take, and they'll continue to take, and they'll continue to take. The other thing that I really love that you said, because this has been pivotal in my life as well, is that I have to show up for me first. I have to be the best for me before I can be any good for anybody else, any good for anyone else. So much of my life I spent trying to be what other people needed me to be, or what I felt other people
Oh
wanted me to
man.
be or needed me to be. And I wasn't authentic to myself, and I wasn't true to myself. And similarly, I went through deep depressions. I went through just tumultuous roads,
Yes.
until I had a life altering event as well. And from there, when I came out of the other side of that, I had to do some really deep digging and shadow work. What is going on inside of me where I can be this great selfless giver to others. I can show up for others, but I can't do it for myself.
Yes.
Right. And that led to a journey that I'm still on and I'll be on for the rest of my life. That
Mhm.
and one of the things that hit me powerfully during that time is that if I can't sit alone in a room with nothing, absolutely nothing, and find happiness, then something's wrong. I got to dig deeper.
Yeah.
Because in a room with nothing, there's no distractions,
Yes.
right? It's
Absolutely.
just you.
Yep.
And if I can't find happiness there, I got to dig deeper.
Yeah. And we've spoken about this, but you're absolutely true. So I learned that hey, going to the movies by yourself, probably the
Oh,
best
yeah.
thing in the world. For those of you
I
that
love
never
it.
tried that, you should try it.
Yeah.
Um,
Go to a restaurant by yourself.
oh man, I
And
remember
and
the
don't just
first
don't
time.
just don't just sit at a bar,
Yeah, no,
right?
no,
Like
no, no,
go
no.
sit at a table,
Hmm.
order yourself an appetizer, date yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
like 100% date yourself. Ask yourself the questions that if you were asking somebody else, you would want to know, right? Like we
So cool.
forget so much about ourselves, right? Because there's so much distraction in the world.
Yes.
Jordan Peterson, he
Oh,
said
I can't wait for that.
oh, it's going to be so good. But he said that one of the most, I'm paraphrasing here, one of the worst things that you can say is I'm waiting for the right one to come along, right? Like there's so many fish out there in the sea and I'm waiting for the right person,
Yeah,
right? He says that's ridiculous, right? Become who you would want to date first,
absolutely.
and then you'll find then other people will be attracted to that. You
Yeah,
know, we underscore it so much because we're trying to be, so much of our lives we wear a mask, and until you can take that mask off and throw it away and truly show up as yourself, you can struggle with those things.
yeah. No, I mean, it just it goes back to one of the things that we talk about all the time is be the leader you want, right?
Yeah,
It's the same thing. Same thing.
yeah, be the leader that you want to have.
Mhm.
I mean, if you want a leader that's honest, how about start being honest, right? If you want a leader that's going to show up for you intentionally and is going to hold others accountable, how about you start holding yourself accountable?
Bingo.
You
No,
know,
absolutely. So that we go on to to your second one before we get there, I just want to say, yeah, man, when you go out on a date with yourself, guess what? You pick whatever appetizer you want, you pick whatever meal you want, and you pick whatever dessert you want.
that's right. That's right. That's right. When you go to a movie by yourself, you get to go see exactly the movie you want to see. You
Hmm.
get to sit where you want to see it. If
Yep.
you want to have popcorn and raisinets, then guess who gets to have popcorn and raisinets?
Yep.
You. Right? You don't got to
Absolutely.
do anything else for anyone else. Right?
Amen to
Yeah.
that.
Amen to that. So I guess that segues perfectly into the number two guiding principle in my life, which is unexpressed needs rarely get met.
Ooh, that's my
Yeah,
favorite, by the way.
unexpressed needs rarely get met, and it doesn't mean that they won't ever get met. It doesn't mean that sometimes without you expressing it, people aren't going to somehow meet, or your needs aren't going to get met. But it very rarely does that happen. Very rarely does it happen the way you want it to,
Oh, oh, oh,
which
oh,
is I think a more important distinction in that. Um,
so let me
because
ask
your
you.
needs make go ahead.
Yeah, so let me ask you something, Tanner.
Yeah.
Because I've always wanted to ask you this, and I don't know why I don't ask you this because we talk about this all the time too. Um, how did that come about for you?
Uh, so uh, so very similar to what we were just talking about. So most of my life, it was about others' needs other than myself, and being a selfless giver. And 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 creating unhealthy habits for myself,
Ooh,
um, because I wasn't being met where I needed to be met,
okay.
but I also wasn't expressing what I needed. So in the cycle, in that horrible cycle, what I would do is I would just expect people to know what I wanted or what I needed, or and when they wouldn't meet me there, I wasn't speaking up about it. I would just internalize it,
Okay.
and then I would find myself in unhealthy situations. So, once I really started digging and trying to be the best me and show up authentically as who I was, well, in order to be authentic, you have to be able to say what you really want, right? Like
Yes.
if you expect someone to meet you where you need them to, you have to tell them, right? Nobody's a mind reader.
Without a doubt.
Even the people who say that they're mind readers, they're really not mind readers, right? They've
They're
learned how
not.
to pick up on context clues.
Mhm.
But so for me, I spent most of my life as a people pleaser, and I would push my needs down to try and meet others where they needed to be. And it led to unhealthy habits. But the other half of that is that, so being a chef by trade, it's a lot of control in kitchens.
Mhm.
And if I expect a dish to be made, prepared, if I expect it to be prepped if I expect it to be prepared, if I expect it to be plated exactly how I want it done, I can't just give somebody part of the instructions.
Oh, wow.
Right? Because
Absolutely.
nobody thinks about it the same way that I do. Nobody's
Mhm.
building it the same way that I do. Nobody's taking the same steps that I'm taking. And so, part of it came out from there. In me developing as a leader, there were times in my career, there was quite a lot of time in my career where I was an ineffective leader because I wasn't clear with my expectations.
Oh,
So
same here. Same here.
yeah, I would trust people because they had the acumen, they had the skill set, they had, they knew what they were doing in the kitchen, but again, they couldn't read my mind.
Yes.
So I would explain what I wanted, but I wouldn't explain it thoroughly enough. I wouldn't walk beside them. I wouldn't show them, be the leader you want to have.
Yes.
I would give them half of it. And then
Yes.
I would get frustrated when the end result wasn't what I expected. Right. And so then it becomes, who am I really frustrated with? My favorite analogy for this is that we both have kids, right? I am convinced that the furthest distance known to man is the distance between the sink and the dishwasher. like I'm convinced like the James Webb telescope can't take pictures that far out. That's how far the distance is. Because every teenage kid that I know will take their dishes and they'll put them in the sink. They don't rinse them off and they don't put them in the dishwasher. Well, if you're not telling your teenage kid, hey, the expectation is that when you're done, you're going to take your dish to the sink, you're going to rinse it off, and you're going to put it in the dishwasher. And you go over to the sink and there's a bunch of dishes there. Who do you deserve to get pissed off at?
Yourself.
Only you.
Yeah.
Only you.
It's so funny because oh my God. So my fiance and I have been having this conversation for a couple of months because sometimes I get home and we're a blended family, but we have
Yeah.
grown ups, okay? Not teenagers, grown ups. It's like, okay, why? I mean, they don't, the dishes were not even getting to the sink. They were
Yeah.
like 2 feet away from the sink, which I totally understand, or half of them in their rooms. And I'm like, okay, what are we doing? Like, how is life so hard? Just
Right. Right. It's right. Like you made it almost there.
there.
You made it like it's like parking the car. like excuse me. It's like parking the car halfway in the garage.
Yes.
Like the trunk's still sticking outside of the garage and the hood's still inside. Like you're right there.
Just finish it.
Yeah. So unexpressed needs rarely get met.
Oh, without it. And I completely wholeheartedly everything you said, I mean, I've experienced in life. And I've I mean, yes, I've given half-baked instructions, and of course, you're not going to get what you're looking for because you're giving, like you say, half-baked instructions. So as leaders, let's remember that if we expect something, a final result, let's make sure we give all the instructions. And if we're not sure that they understood the instructions, ask, give them more details. You can never give
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
All right.
And as much as you can, walk beside them.
So
Walk beside them. It's easy to use kitchen analogies. It's harder in some other scenarios, but I can take a product and put it on a plate and show you what I expect it to look like. Right? Can't always do that in every area of leadership.
no, absolutely not. But the more instructions, the more clear and concise you can be as a leader, I think the better everyone is going to be for it.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
So for me, second one is one that I truly love. And it's only second because people are my love language. I love people. And I love your quote right behind you. It's just amazing. I love it, love it, love it. For those of you that are just listening in, it says, "Let all that you do be done in love," which is
Yeah.
powerful, powerful. All right, so for me, the second one, so I people that know me know that I'm all about getting better every day. So how do you, just the one thing that is for me is being important, but not only for myself, but as I mentor future leaders, is that how are you getting better every day? Now that doesn't mean that today you're going to be different version of who you were yesterday, that you're going to all of a sudden be an overnight success. It
Right.
means that what are you doing today that's going to make you better from what you did yesterday? What did you learn from yesterday and from the day before? And how are you being consistent with those small growth pieces? And that's for me, it's so important that you show that you're growing. Now, again, it's not going to happen overnight or you're going to be an overnight success. But if you are piling on those good days where you're doing a little bit better every day, 30, 60, 90 days away, you're going to be growing. You're going to be growing exponentially. So for me, that is vital for myself, but also I expect that to give that and empower others to be able to do that.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think one of the favorite sayings that I've heard from you is 1% better every day.
Yes,
Because we have this idea that things have to be perfect before we improve,
absolutely not.
right? Like before I go to the gym, I have to have my protein powder, purchased, and I have to have my BCAAs, and I have to have my perfect gym outfit, and I have to have my gym bag, and I have to have, I have to, do all of these things before I go to the gym. Right? No,
No,
just go to the gym.
just go to the gym, start,
Just
whatever.
go to the gym.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's you're so right. Small habits put together in a string of successes
Hmm.
day after day build huge success, build the progress that you want to see. It's so important.
It's vital, and people ask me all the time because I'm a busybody, but not just a busybody just to be busy. I'm very intentional in everything I do. And because of my upbringing, because of the failures that I've gone through in life, and learned from those failures, uh, I've just learned this mechanism of like, okay, so I know I'm not going to be an overnight success. How do I how am I able to get to where I want to be? But I understand it's a long journey. And how do I have those small wins? And remind yourself, hey, oh, look, cool. Like 3 days ago, I couldn't do that. Now I can.
Yeah.
And if we put that analogy, use the analogy that you mentioned earlier about the gym, like go to the gym. Maybe when you start, you can only do 5-pound dumbbells. But if you do that every day in a couple of weeks, you probably can do 10.
Yep.
And if you continue, you'll get to 15. And if you continue, you'll get to 20.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen overnight. You can't just go from, all of a sudden, small weights to, okay, now I'm going to get, really heavy weights. You won't be able to.
No.
But if you incrementally and are consistent about it, you can.
Well, and if you try to jump too far too fast, you're probably going to miss the mark,
And fall
and
on
then
your face.
you're gonna get discouraged,
Hmm.
and then you're gonna start that negative self-talk. Well, I
Yes.
knew I probably couldn't do it anyway, you know, or I never complete the things that I start.
Yes.
And that just, that again goes back to you got to control your second thoughts,
Yes.
right? You got to accept that what's that? I think it's a Taoist saying or a Buddhist saying. The journey of 10,000 steps starts with the first one. Something along those lines. I mean, it's no different than anything else. look, if I expected somebody who walked right into my kitchen right now to be able to use a knife the same way that I use a knife after a quarter of a century, it'd be ridiculous, right? You got to be patient with people, and you got to be patient with yourself, because it takes time to do anything worth doing is worth doing well, and it takes time to do it. I mean, I've been on this journey that I'm on right now for the past 7 years. And if I were to look at where I was on day 1 or day 2 and look back now, well, holy mackerel, I can't believe how far I've come. Like, I can't believe how much I've transformed myself. But on day 2, I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to get any better.
Yeah. And there's things like that. And there's things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah. You get
like
discouraged.
that.
Well, I mean, look, there was a point, like 6 months ago, you and I were talking, and I was telling you that there was this little black rain cloud over my head, and I couldn't figure it. It took me like a week to figure out what was really like bothering me. I had to dig down deep every day, going, what's going on, Tanner? Your energy's different. You like, what is bothering you? So yeah.
Yeah, we go through those periods in our life, and that's why it's also important to have the right people around us. Have the
Absolutely.
right support system. I mean, your circle,
Yeah.
that circle of trust,
Yeah.
it has to be the right people.
Yeah, I tell people, I because I'm a social butterfly, and I'm 100% an extrovert. But I tell people, I may know a lot of people, but my circle is very small.
Same.
It's very small. The people that I lean on, the people that lean on me, I mean, I know that I've got their back. I know they've got my back. I know that in my darkest moments, not only can I go to them, but they're going to recognize it, and they're going to say something to me about it. They're going to hold me accountable to who I am intentionally and authentically. I mean, you're one of them. You've done it with me, where my energy has been off, and you've come to me and you've gone, brother, what's going on?
Yep.
Something's off, and then, we can have a dialogue about it. I mean, that you cannot understate how important having a strong, loyal, and honest circle really is, especially for people pleasers or selfless givers like ourselves.
Oh, without a doubt, because you can go down some really dark holes if you don't.
Yeah, and we can pour out a cup so fast, so fast.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, brother, you're up. Number 3.
All right, so my third guiding principle in my life, and this one was probably the most pivotal for me in my life and in my journey. Guiding principle number 3 is that forgiveness is a superpower. Yeah, I had an argument, a banter. I'll say I had a banter with my kids about this. I told them, I said, your dad has a superpower. And I said, no, superpowers aren't real. I said, absolutely, I have a superpower. They said, no, you don't. I said, yes, I do. Forgiveness is a superpower. And I'll just share a quick little personal story. I never knew, I didn't know my real dad until I was 27 years old. And I'd met him, like, I met him once when I was like 6 years old. I had a brief memory of it. And he had sent me a birthday card or a Christmas gift, I think when I was like 7 or 8. But I mean, really no communication ever. He was not a part of my life. And I met my paternal grandfather when I was 24. And at the time, he and my dad were estranged. And a couple of years later, he asked me, he said, Tanner, would you be interested in meeting your dad? And I had dealt with a lot of, I didn't realize what they were at the time. I dealt with a lot of abandonment wounds and trauma wounds because of it as I was growing up, which manifested itself in anger and depression and all kinds of stuff that, I've learned a lot about over the past lifetime of my life. But it was in that moment at 27 years old where I said, you know what, I'm going to put away my anger and I'm going to give an opportunity. And I remember I called him. I was given his phone number. I called him it was on a Wednesday. And I told him, I said, um, you know, we can start a relationship right now if you want. We can start it from day one right now. I've got questions. I want you to be honest with me. But if you're interested, if you're willing, we can start a relationship today. And that step of forgiveness changed so much in my life. That was on a Wednesday. I flew down to meet him on a Friday in Atlanta, Georgia. He passed away 3 years later from cancer. And because of that, it opened up an entire side of my family that I never even knew was out. I mean, I assumed they were out there. I mean, I knew I had family members out there, but I mean, it fundamentally changed who I was as a person, and it has resonated and stayed with me forever. Forgiveness isn't about the other person. Forgiveness is about you. And what do you want to carry around with your life?
Yes.
We all have this suitcase, if you will, or this backpack, or 10 backpacks, or 15 suitcases that we just fill up with stuff in our life.
Yes.
Right. And if we fill it up with resentments and anger and grudges, and that stuff just weighs you down.
Yeah.
It just holds you down.
Oh man, it's so hard. It's
Yeah.
so hard.
And if you don't take the time to release it, now I'm not talking about forgive and forget, right? Because you don't forget, right? But you forgive and you give that wound time to heal. And, eventually wounds become scars, and eventually scars become a little less, and it also helps you understand, who do you want to be? Like me as a father, like I'm a single dad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever want my boys to grow up, one, thinking that I don't love them or I'm not a part of their life.
Yes.
I don't want them to think that because things didn't work out between my mom or their mom and I, that their mom is in some way a bad person, or I'm in some way a bad person. Like, I want them to know that we both love them so much, and I want to change what the mindset that I had as much as possible in the way that I show up for my kids. And forgiveness was a catalyst for that. And it's been a catalyst for so many other instrumental relationships in my life.
And that's I can tell you, I mean, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons, man, because I that's one of the reasons why I consider you my brother, because you're amazing at that. Because I've seen people do wrong by you, and oh man, your superpower kicks in.
Yeah.
And that is so awesome. And that is something also that people, for our audience that are listening, that is hard skill to get, a superpower, like you said, because yes, in life we're gonna have a lot of challenges. We're going to go through a lot of things, and if we just carry every burden of every bad thing that has happened to us, or every person that has done us wrong, life is going to be really hard. Like really,
Yeah.
really, really, really hard. I can tell you personally too, my brother was my best friend, but my brother was the total opposite of who I was at that same time. And when we were both when we were both alive. Um, my brother was like the funnest person you could ever be. He was everything goes. It didn't matter. Everything goes. No responsibility, none whatsoever. It was all about having a good time and enjoying life. I was wound up very tight and did not enjoy life, and actually begrudged at times, that he's having so much fun and I'm not. I have to be the responsible one. I have to carry the burden of the family. Unfortunately, my dad was very sick at an early age, and I had to be the responsible one and all that. And I had to come at peace with that. There's no other way, because I wasn't going to grow as a human being, or be better for me and for my family, unless I understood and made peace with that, and not carry that burden for the rest of my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
So
And
that
it's
is
hard.
hard.
It,
Oh,
I mean,
it's so hard.
it's so hard, because again, you both had such different dynamics that you brought to your family,
Hmm. Absolutely.
and it's hard to sit on one side of it and go, why does he get to be the one to have fun?
Hmm.
Like, why does he get to be the one that is carefree?
Hmm.
And I have to be the one who's here focused. And it's so important in our personal growth as well as our professional growth to be able to take a step back outside of both those two personalities
Yeah.
and go, what roles do both of us play objectively?
Exactly.
What
Exactly.
roles do both of us play?
Absolutely.
And when you can step out of it and look at it from there, then you start to have mutual respect, right? You go, okay, these are the things that I really bring to the table, but these are the things that he's bringing to the table, and
E-
both of those two things complement each other.
Exactly. And that's where I didn't see that at that time. And I had to come to that realization that it was okay. It was okay. It was okay. And we have to love our people the way they are.
Yes. Yeah. I don't want to change anyone.
Hmm.
The only person that I want to change on this planet is myself.
Yep.
That's it. Because I know if I show up as my best me, everyone around me benefits,
Without a doubt.
right? But if I'm
Without
sitting here trying to change somebody else, why? Like, what good does that do for them? What good does that do for me?
Done.
Right? They gotta do the work themselves.
Done. Yep.
Yeah.
Um,
And it
but
and if I'm holding on to grudges, that's not helping anyone.
oh, without a doubt, because you're not being your authentic self. You're not bringing your best self
Right.
to the table. All right. So for me, last one. And geez, we just continue to
we just
kind
we
of
just
break
go.
records. I mean, we only got through one, and I figured we weren't going to get through any other ones other than the guiding principles. But for me, the last one is impacting people's lives in a positive manner. So because of my upbringing, I uh I went through a lot of hardships early on as a kid. And I'm so glad for it. So it's not that, I feel don't feel sorry for me. No, no, I wouldn't change anything that I've experienced in my life, because it's gotten me to where I am and made me the person that I am today. Thank God. Um, but because I went through those hardships, for me, it's important that I impact everyone's life in a positive manner. Now, have I done that all my life? Absolutely not. I've done some really bad things.
Right.
So I'm very intentional nowadays to make sure that my interactions, my actions, what I do and what I don't do, um, impacts others in a positive manner, not in a negative way.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's an important distinction there in that you can't control how others perceive what you do.
Yes,
I know I like to think I know you very well. And I know that you are always honest. You're
absolutely.
always intentional with your actions. You're a very straight shooter. And that you are one of the kindest people I've ever met in my life. And when I and not just in how you give, but how you mentor. I've seen a number of the people that you've mentored, and what you give to them is more than just institutional knowledge.
Oh yeah, no,
You give them the opportunity to grow. Now, some people, some people just don't want to grow,
yeah,
so so you can't help sometimes. You're trying to help somebody grow, and they can't see it, and their perception is whatever it is. But you know being impactful in people's lives is it's so it's so understated in how simple it can be. It can be as simple as a smile to
yes,
somebody who just hasn't seen it in
yeah,
a while.
mm-hmm.
It can be that listening ear
Yeah,
to somebody that just needs to talk, right? They're not coming for advice. They just need to vent, or they just, sometimes I just need to talk things out. I don't need anyone to answer the questions. I got to get it out of my head because
yeah,
I got to work it out. It'll work out as I'm speaking about it. But being impactful in people's lives is it's like that saying, service to others is the greatest gift that you can give to yourself.
yeah, yeah,
Knowing as a leader that you positively impacted somebody's life and helped them grow and help them become better, either as a team member, a colleague, an employee, a follower, a leader. That's the reward.
oh yeah,
That's the real win. It's not titles or trophies or anything like that. It's that lasting impact. There's a when I was in high school, how in high school everybody, like, at the end of the year you have the yearbooks and everybody signs the yearbooks.
yeah,
So the saying that I would put in every yearbook that I signed was, immortality comes to those who want it most. And in my mind, as a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid, I thought I was just being kind of coy, and I was kind of I don't know if I really understood what I was saying at the time. It was a concept that I think just came to me, but was bigger than my teenage brain could understand. Now, when I think about it, it's about that lasting impact.
yes,
It's about you know the impact that you have on someone positively is always better than negative, but the positive impact that you have on someone or society as a whole could last centuries, could last millennia. You know, you have no idea how big that impact could be.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Immortality could come to those who impact people the most positively.
It could absolutely, but it's what you're saying really resonates with one of my biggest business model, and it's on my background is building better leaders for a better world, and that's in a sense, if we can do that, we're making the world better. And I know a lot has been said, and especially through social media, that that our future society, our future future generations are not any better. They're not going to do good things. Well, they're not if we don't teach them. They're not if
Right.
we're not being impactful or intentful in making them better.
Every generation thinks that the generations that follow them are lazy or don't get it or don't aren't as intentional as or impactful as they were. We hear it now, talking about millennials or Gen Z's, or I don't find that to be true. I find that in my generation there was as many lazy people as there were hardworking people. There was as many, complacent people as there were,
Hmm.
outside of the box thinkers. And uh, you make the perfect point. Our generations will only be as good as we teach them to be.
Hmm.
They'll only be as good as we inspire them to be. They'll only be as good as we engage them to be.
Mm-hmm.
And these generations that are coming up now, they have an advantage that we didn't have in the advancements in technology, right? So the more they can, this may be an outside of the box thought, but the more they can engage technology and AI to help do some of the work for them, the more they have the opportunity to be more impactful in a positive way, because they're not being burdened down by the jobs in the same way that we have been, very task oriented, data input or data, not data driven, but data input, or incredibly hands on. Hopefully, if we're engaging them the right way, inspiring them the right way with technological advancements and their ability to be a little bit more hands off, they can be more free thinkers.
Yeah, creative.
And be more creative, and create that better society.
Yeah, absolutely. You hear this a lot with, especially as we go through this boom with artificial intelligence and people, screaming from both sides. Oh, it's great. Oh, it's bad, or whatever. The robots are going to take over and take over the world and blah blah blah. Yeah, no. Uh, one thing that the AI is not going to be able to do is AI cannot replace a great leader.
No,
Period.
no. Yeah, AI cannot have true emotion.
Yep.
And so AI will always work for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so we are at a at a place where we probably need to stop. Any final thoughts? Because I have something that I do want to say before we log off, and then we'll figure out the next steps.
Yeah, so it's been really great to share guiding principles. I think that guiding principles are the foundation of what make us who we are as people. I think they're the foundation of what make us who we are as leaders. And if we're true to our guiding principles, and if you don't have any guiding principles, that's fine.
Yeah.
I would say sit with yourself,
Mhm.
and find out what makes you you,
Yep.
and try and drill that down to two or three things of what makes you really tick and who you really are. Is it your honesty? Is it your integrity? Is it your jovialness? Is it your humor? What is it that makes you who you are? And you'll find that you have some guiding principles, and if you can take then those guiding principles and articulate them into how they make you a good leader, and a good follower, your worldview will change, in my opinion.
Great words here from my brother. That's hard to follow right there. As usual, he knocks it out the park. A few things that I do want to share, and very similar to what you just eloquently stated, Tanner. When leaders articulate and embody the core principles that define their mission, vision, um, they create a cohesive culture. So it's not just nice words, but there's feelings behind it. And every action and decision is aligned with those guiding principles. Uh, those are the things that come to mind for me. The alignment fosters an environment of mutual understanding and shared purpose. When you have that, you have a powerful organization. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and that gets breathed into the fabric of the organization and its identity. And now it's not just, a nice saying on the wall, right? It's something that people feel, and people from the outside feel as well, as they connect with your organization. So thank you for this segment. I know it was going to be very powerful, because I know it is something that is very near and dear to your heart. And I can't wait for our next one. We're signing off. Thank you, audience. We'll be with you here on the next episode as we continue speaking on Bill Walsh's 6 principles.
Bye, everyone.